Hello, my name is Amy Nguyen, and I will be presenting The American Gothic, made by Grant Wood in 1930. Background. The American Gothic was created in 1930, the year after the start of the Great Depression, the worst economic downturn in the history of the industrial world. Grant Wood was inspired to create American Gothic when he passed by a Gothic-style house in Eldon, Iowa. Wood recruited his dentist, Dr. Byron McKeeby, and his sister, Nan Wood Graham, to model as the father and daughter subjects in his painting. Form. The American Gothic has the dimensions of 78 centimeters by 65.3 centimeters. When viewing the American Gothic, a pattern between the colors used in the piece can be traced. To depict the dreary, depressed tone of the Great Depression, Grant Wood uses a wide variety of dull, muted earth tones, most of which are dull blues, greens, and reddish browns. These dull but lighter colors contrast with the darker colors seen in the two subjects' clothing, creating a juxtaposition that makes the two subjects stand out more in the piece. Other than the colors, Grant Wood also uses lines to bring out the focus of his piece. First, Grant Wood uses vertical lines throughout the piece, which can be seen in the prongs of the pitchfork, the raised lines on the house, and the lines of the windows. Wood also uses a strong set of diagonal lines from the roof of the house, which lead directly to the heads of the two subjects. The purpose of both of these lines is to bring more attention to the main subjects. Both types of lines draw the eyes of the viewers to the figures. Additionally, the many vertical lines seen throughout the painting create a strong stoic mood that matches the mood seen on their faces. When looking at the American Gothic more closely, several trees can be seen in the far background behind the house. Wood doesn't depict these trees as realistically as he does with other objects in the piece. He instead chooses to make the trees unrealistically round and circular. This choice emphasizes the far distance between the trees and the figures, but also signifies Wood's intent for viewers to focus more on the subjects. He also emphasizes this intent by making the subjects, including the house, extremely detailed. For example, Wood puts effort into the fine details seen in the foreground, such as the lace details of the curtains, the circular design on the woman's dress, and the deep creases and wrinkles on the faces. All of Wood's attention to detail creates a perspective of depth that deepens the composition of the painting rather than having a flat-looking canvas. Content. In the American Gothic, a house is featured behind the pair, built in an 1880s Victorian architectural style known as Carpenter Gothic, which can be seen in the Gothic-style window between the two subjects. This Gothic style also suggests the importance of religion in their lives living in the Midwest. The title American Gothic is a play on words because of Wood's depiction of both religion and American values in the painting, both important to rural Americans in the 1930s. When analyzed closely, Wood includes tiny details alluding to religion in his work, including the previously mentioned Gothic-style windows, which can be found in older Gothic cathedrals. The collar of the woman's dress is similar to clerical collars worn by the clergy of a Christian church, a sign of a person's religious calling. Additionally, the three prongs of the pitchfork symbolize the Christian Trinity: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Many American values can also be found in the American Gothic. For example, American values can be seen in the classic sets of clothing both figures wear, typically worn in rural America in the 1930s, expressing the popular Americana culture of the early 1900s. Americana, referring to anything representative or stereotypical of American culture, including farming, was especially popular among most of America who were still content with a small-town agricultural life in the 1880s. However, when America began to modernize and become more industrial, over half of the American population left their small-town lives for the big city. When the American Gothic was first painted, the art piece sparked controversy over its true meaning, which ultimately gained the painting its fame. Urban Americans understood the painting as a satirical comment on the outdated life of rural Americans and their stubbornness not to catch up with the modernizing world. However, rural Americans believed that his painting represented hard-working and honest American values, which is more like what Grant intended. Details such as the repetition of pitchfork symbols in the painting symbolize the protective and conservative nature of rural Americans. Wood also depicts a snake plant and a beefsteak begonia on the porch of the house, which are both hardy, resilient plants, which add to his depiction of the tough, unwavering face of rural Americans, especially with the modernization of America. Traditional gender roles of Midwestern America were also shown through the positioning of the daughter behind the father, demonstrating the unchanging culture of the Midwest, in contrast to the changes in industrial areas where women were starting to gain more equality. Style. The style of this piece is regionalism, an American art movement rejecting European modernism and abstraction for a more realistic depiction of American life. It was developed in the 1920s and gained popularity throughout the 1930s. Three common characteristics of regionalist art are a connection to a specific area, particularly rural, a realistic representation of life, and themes of social commentary. The art style developed organically through the works of Thomas Hart Benton, Grant Wood, and John Stuart Curry, who were dubbed the Regionalist Triumvirate. All three artists were discontent with American art at the time and wanted to create a new American art that was free of foreign influences. Medium. The medium used to paint the American Gothic was oil on beaver board. Beaver board was a type of file board formed by compressing wood into fiber sheets, usually used for buildings. White ochre wood chips are cleaned and mixed with paraffin wax to soften and transform into fluffy wood fibers. Then, the fibers are hot pressed into a solid board. Technique. Grant Wood's American Gothic presents a well-blended look with a smooth, finished texture. Besides smoothing the canvas with a razor blade and gesso, Wood uses a technique of natural fine brushstrokes throughout the painting to create a subtle transition between colors and defined intricate details to make the painting look more realistic. Creator's point of view. Grant Wood was born on his strict parents' farm outside of Anamosa, Iowa, on February 13, 1891. After discovering his passion for art in high school, Wood attended the Minneapolis School of Design and the School of Art Institute of Chicago to continue pursuing art. From 1922 to 1935, Wood made 4 trips to Europe to study European styles of art, specifically Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and Pointillism. During his trip to Munich, Germany, Wood was deeply influenced by Northern Renaissance paintings, specifically pieces painted by the Flemish painter Jan van Eyck. Wood incorporated Jan van Eyck's sharp lines and attention to detail in his regionalist works. Overall, Wood's objective for the American Gothic was to reflect the positive aspects of rural American life, hoping to give reassurance for the troubling times ahead during the Great Depression. Grant Wood's fond memories of his childhood farm life resulted in his affections and sympathy for rural Americans during the Great Depression. Hence why Wood wanted to create this piece to showcase the hard-working, resilient people who represented true American spirit. Interesting story. After analysis of all of Wood's artwork and statements from his peers, art historians discovered that Grant Wood was secretly queer. Wood was believed to have discovered openly queer culture when he visited Paris for his studies. As he started to embrace his identity, Wood started the Stone City Art Colony, a private art space established using the funds from American Gothic's fame, giving him a space to practice art away from public view. His piece, Daughters of Revolution, were rumored to depict the Founding Fathers cross-dressing, which he only addressed as a work of satire. When his queerness became more apparent, Wood faced lots of criticism and ended up self-censoring some of his work. Legacy. The American Gothic is now held at the Art Institute of Chicago as a part of their Art of America's collection. Even though the American Gothic was produced almost a century ago, the American Gothic is still the talk of museum lovers for its interesting positioning and mood, leading people to wonder, why are they so serious and what is she looking at? But whether or not people are mocking the look of the painting or paying homage to the meaning, the American Gothic continues to carry its popularity through the references in film, reimaginations from artists, and lots of internet memes. Thank you for listening, and here are my sources.